Hiya. I kind of have low self-esteem, so I'm just going to talk about how I'm not very smart, partly because I didn't go to school, so I'm just going to talk about that. I didn't go to school for a couple of reasons. One being my parents were paranoid as fuck. Second is they thought the only school I would get to go to would be a special needs school, so they decided to homeschool me, if you can even call it that. I was probably around 7 when my parents first started teaching me. And during this time, my parents made us do these Christian workbooks. It had basic reading, math, and other stuff, I think. But fast forward when I was 12. At this time, my parents started buying our workbooks from Barnes & Noble. And unlike the workbooks I was used to, these actually had a grade on the cover. It starts from 1 and it goes all the way up to 12. I can't show you any stock images of what these books looks like because there's none on Google. And I don't know where my old workbooks are, so I can't show you any of them. Trust me, that they existed. I remember doing those Christian workbooks years before this, so I don't know why my parents felt the need to get the first grade workbooks from Barnes & Noble. So all the work I did years earlier was for nothing? Okay, cool. So there I was, 12 years old, doing work meant for a 6-year-old, but it was not easy. I had a bit of an attention problem, so my mom would yell at me when, I wasn't paying attention, so she would have to constantly repeat herself, and then, I'd cry. It was like this whole thing. But when she wasn't yelling at me, she was falling asleep. But she was a terrible teacher. So that's why I hardly did any of my schoolwork. It was real easy to get away with that. I mean, even when I was 9, I hardly even touched the Christian books. So you know how kids go to school 5 days a week for 7 hours? Well, I only did the work a few times a month for 1 hour, I think. But with that said, doing one math problem took up a lot of my time. When I was in my teens, my mom usually sent me to my room to do the work from now on. And there was only one way for me to do it, because I would do something that I like to call the magnet doodle method. I would draw dots on my magnet doodle, the dots representing the numbers, and I would count the dots to figure out the number, and that's how I did math. I did this because I wasn't able to add or subtract in my head. I really needed the magnet doodle method because I couldn't get any questions right without it. I don't know how kids can do math without a magnet doodle. I did this method a lot for times tables too. This is why it took me forever just to finish one question. But here's the thing. Doing the magnet doodle method for times tables, it didn't work. I just got all of the answers wrong. It's actually impressive how much I got wrong. Reading was probably the hardest though. One time I showed my mom my answers. It wasn't for math, it was for my reading skills, and I got almost every single answer wrong. I don't know how. I was actually trying that time. It made my mom think I was rushing through it, but I swear I wasn't. I'm just not smart. And this was like 3rd or 4th grade work. Guess how old I was? That's right, I was 15. So at some point my parents took me to doctors to figure out how stupid I was. Turns out, a lot. They asked me very basic questions, like who's president, or what's 4 times 5, which was an unfair question, because I was really unclear what times tables actually were at the time. My parents didn't teach me that very well, so my dumb ass was like, 9. Because you see, to me, times meant plus. So I treated the question as 4 plus 5, and 4 plus 5 is 9, so that's why I said 9. The doctor didn't understand that I didn't know what the hell times meant, but my parents were sitting there wondering where they went wrong. Well, for starters, they could have actually taken me to school. I don't think people understood I never did my schoolwork, because every time I went for my yearly checkup, the doctor would ask, what do I do when I'm not doing schoolwork? And the thing is, I never do schoolwork. Maybe once every few weeks, I don't know, I didn't really keep track of it, and neither did my parents. So all I did all the time was play with Bakugan, Beyblades, video games, and watch TV. But now let me talk about how I suck at reading, because I'm a dummy. So when I was 10, me and my brother were going to be in this play for church. We didn't end up going, but we did do a few of the rehearsals. And me and the rest of the kids were given scripts, but these scripts didn't just have words on them, they had cursive. I mean, not only I couldn't read, but I especially couldn't read cursive. So me and the other kids had to follow the script while singing. You know, it was one of those plays. But I couldn't read the script, so I figured I move my lips. This is going to be so stupid, but bear with me. I moved my lips to try to sync up with what the other kids were singing. That's right. I faked it. That's what she said. And guess what? I wasn't even smart enough to come up with that. It was my mom's idea. But yeah, reading sucked. But I'm actually lucky for the time I grew up in, because I got my first flip phone when I was like 11. So texting really helped me read and spell. But sometimes it's frustrating how stupid I am. If I want to know how to spell something, I look it up on my phone and I try to type it into my computer, and I still somehow get it wrong. So I look at my phone again, I go back on my computer, look at my phone, I keep copying the word exactly what it says on my phone. Still takes me a few tries to get it right. How does that even happen? But boy, am I dumb. You are dumb. I don't know how kids learn to read and spell without technology. Like, what did they do before texting? Here's another example of how stupid I am. Last winter, I was mailing a present to my friend for Christmas, and I had her address written down. But since I only had one shipping label and I couldn't be trusted writing anything down, because I'll just fuck it up, my other friend decided he would read it off for me, and then I'll write it down. And then, later he'll check for any mistakes. And at some point, he told me to write a W, so I was sitting there, thinking to myself, okay, a W. I don't want to mess this up because I only have one shipping label. That's a B. I know. I said write a W. I know! Then why did you write a B? The letters get mixed up in my head for no reason. Okay, it wasn't that intense. But how stupid. I heard him say W. I had the time to think about it, and then I wrote a B instead. It's amazing how stupid I am. Another problem I have is not being able to remember how to spell certain words, even though I spelled them so many times before with the help of Google, of course. But some words I can spell, but I spell them out of order. Like the word field, I sometimes spell it like this, or like this. And then, I keep trying until I get it right. By that, I mean I look it up on Google. Because, I'm not so bright. Also, sometimes simple words even confuse me. Like when it comes to words like bell or baw, or like taw or tell, or week or week. They look so similar. So whenever I want to include these words in my text messages, I have to sit there like it's rocket science. But I'm just really bad at remembering these words. An example of this would be when I was playing Animal Crossing City Folk. And I was visiting a friend's town, and the friend asked where I was on the map. So I typed into the chat box, I'm at Town Hall. Only I didn't say that. I told her I was at Town Hell. We all make typos. It happens to the best of us. But there's a difference between a typo and typing something on purpose. So I typed hell on purpose because I generally thought that's how you spelled hall. Well, I knew it was one or the other. And this one time, when I was texting my grandmother, I forgot what we were talking about, but I was trying to say the word hero, but it probably came out like this. I remember I added a bunch of letters that shouldn't be in there. It was like I was making up my own language or something. I was trying to sound it out the best I could. Instead, a 4-letter word just came out like this huge word with a bunch of random letters that didn't make any sense. So my grandmother was probably just sitting there looking at her phone, looking all perplexed at this monstrosity of a word I just created in my head. The next time I saw her, she asked me what the hell was I was trying to say. And I was probably 12 or 13 at the time. And I couldn't even spell hero correctly. Sometimes I just read things wrong. Like when me and my friend were in the car passing a store, and on the building it said Harbor Freight. You want to know what I thought it said? I thought it said Horror Freight. Page, it says Harbor Freight. I don't think so. Also, I have terrible reading comprehension. That's another reason why it took so long to do schoolwork. Because each page will have instructions, tell you what you're supposed to do. I'd have to read the same thing over and over again because I'm stupid as hell. And it was no different when I read Rules of the Road. I had to keep reading the same sentences over and over again. Like, I'm also a very slow reader, so I don't know how people are able to read road signs so fast while driving. But when I was like 9, my grandmother used to read this book with me, Dick and Jane. She thought if I read the same book 10 times, I would get the hang of it. But when I was 12, my mom tried using these flashcards on me. Even at 12 years old, I knew this was bullshit. So I told her, I'm not doing this. It's for babies. Oh, can you read any of these words? She said while holding up flashcards with the smuggest face ever. But she was right. And these flashcards had short, simple sentences on the top, and on the bottom, they had picture drawings. But I wasn't only bad at reading, spelling, or math, tying my shoes, but I was also bad at, well, you know how some people have trouble telling their left from their right? Oh, I couldn't tell backwards from forward. I was a stupid child. Let me explain. Mom would brush my hair, and while she did so, I would be sitting on the floor while she would sit on the bed, and sometimes she would tell me to back up or scoot forward. And I would end up doing the opposite. Sometimes I wouldn't even move at all because I didn't know which way she wanted me to go. I don't know why, I just couldn't tell which way was which. But anyway, yeah, I didn't do schoolwork because I wasn't getting graded on anything, and there was no graduation, so there wasn't an incentive to do well. And then when I did actually try, I didn't do well. Kind of gave me low self-esteem because my brother was the smart one, so my mom would encourage him and by telling him that he's such a smart kid, and they never praised me like that. I only got praised on my drawings. Believe it or not, I draw decently well. Stick figures doesn't do it justice. I read and spell okay now, so the moral of the story should be to never give up. But I did give up on doing my homework. Just do the bare minimum and you too can make low effort YouTube videos. My reading and spelling skills is probably my only insecurities, but you know what makes me feel really good? Exercise. But also, have you ever heard of Miiverse? It was Nintendo's idea of a social media site, and the people on there I spoke to didn't spell or read very good at all. They made me feel smart. But with all that said, it's frustrating to write these scripts, so that's why I rely on my phone to spell correctly, because I have a piss poor memory. Anyway, I made a video on Beetlejuice 2. It was blocked by YouTube, so it's on my Patreon for free. Also follow me on Instagram, and also Clapper, if you ever even heard of Clapper. The moral of the story is there will always be someone dumber than you. Okay, bye.